Perfect. Well, thank you, Linda. So yeah, my name's Stephen O'Flynn O'Brien. I'm a UNC Charlotte mechanical engineering alumni. I graduated in May of 2013. I was there for 4 years. Originally from the Delaware area, moved down to UNC to the Charlotte area in 2009 for school. So I was one of those foreigners from somewhere else that came to Charlotte, and I've made Charlotte my home. I live just outside of the city in Cabarrus County. So a little bit of background of what I did while I was in school to kind of help myself stand out. I was a member of ASME, student organization, tried to stay engaged with different extracurricular activities. I was a teaching assistant. I taught, or I assisted with the 1201 class for a couple semesters. Was a member of Tau Beta Pi, which is a engineering honors fraternity. Engaged with junior design and senior design experiments beyond my own project. After graduating from UNC Charlotte, I began my career working in the nuclear industry, working for a French contractor called Areva, that's now known as Framatome. Worked for them as a design engineer for about 3 years, working on various nuclear plants throughout the Southeast. I would try to expand my experience. I was very young compared to the rest of the energy industry. So I tried to really get exposed to as many things as I can. And that was something I would recommend to you as you start your careers. Be a yes person. If you're offered an opportunity, say yes to it. I mean, it can only help you. It may make you feel a little uncomfortable, but what you'll gain from it will take you further than you think. So spent about 3 years with Areva doing design engineering, transitioned to a different department in that organization. Areva was a pretty large company. We had about 5,000 people when I joined. Transitioned over to a different department doing more testing oriented evaluations. As a mechanical engineer, the use of a mechanical engineer in the nuclear industry was kind of shifting. So I shifted with that to commercial grade dedication. Commercial grade dedication was testing individual components that are going to be used in a nuclear plant to ensure that they will function in their use in the plant. So that gave me a lot of hands-on experience, developing test methods, acceptance criteria, and kind of getting a little bit more hands-on, which is where I wanted to go with my career. So it worked out well. Ended up leaving Areva about 5 to 6 years in. At that point, I had already completed my professional engineer license in the state of North Carolina, sat for the exam up in Raleigh. We can get into that a little bit later. After leaving Areva, I went over to work for a pump company. The major industry we focused on was hydraulics and oil and gas. So a lot more technical role, more sales oriented as well. I was an applications engineer for CERCOR. Customers would come in, and the application engineering department was there to help them understand what CERCOR products would best serve their purpose. So we would size pumps, help them design skid packages. So we would pair electric motors and couplings with our CERCOR pumps and help provide an integrated solution for customers. I did that for about 2 years, right before COVID-19 came around. I was working for CERCOR, and things were getting a little rocky, so I decided to try something new. A friend of mine actually went to school was working in forensic engineering field, and it was something that I always was interested in. Every time we'd get together with the guys, we'd talk about what all of us were doing, and it was very, very interesting to me. So I always, kind of kept an ear in his, kept poking him to say, hey, if there's an opening, let me know. And it worked out that there was something available, and I changed over to the forensics field. Forensics is definitely more hands-on, so similar to what I was doing in my commercial grade dedication work. Go out in the field and determine different failures, determine what the cause was, help insurance companies and different legal entities develop a conclusion for what was the cause of something. And as a professional engineer, part of that is that I can be an expert witness. So being in the forensic field, it is very helpful to have a license and be a licensed engineer. Some jobs, it's not a requirement. So for example, working in applications at CERCOR, there was no need for me to have a license. So it kind of depends on the needs of the company that you're working for, or the position you want, whether a license is needed. Looking back, my group of colleagues when I was in college, pretty much all of us went through and sat for the fundamentals of engineering exam. I think that's a very strong resume builder. I do look at resumes, people coming in, and seeing that someone has passed the fundamentals exam shows that they're a well-rounded engineer. They know their stuff. An engineer, you're a problem solver, so passing the fundamentals exam is evident that you have that capability. Let's see here. Does anyone have any questions so far? Feel free to drop them.
I know I have one. Do you feel in forensic engineering graduate work is required, a master's, PhD? Can you talk just a little bit about kind of the other people in that field? Because I always underneath the impression that you would need to be literally like a subject expert, and maybe I'm wrong.
Sure, I can talk to that. So we do have, so I work for a smaller firm, and we do have some expert, I'll say the word expert there, that specialize in different areas. So for example, US Forensic has a tire expert, and literally all he does every day is evaluate tires. He does do some other things, related to vehicle accidents, but his specialty would be, tire failures. So to say that advanced degrees are required, I wouldn't say it's a hard requirement. I definitely plan on increasing my education, formal education, and going back for a master's degree. But I wouldn't say it's a requirement. Definitely need to know, as a professional engineer, you have to know your bounds, what your level of experience is in different areas. And, as an engineer, you're required to stay within those bounds. Having an advanced degree definitely can help you dive deeper into certain areas or cover more expansive areas, but it's not a requirement. Hopefully that answers your question, Linda.
It does, thank you.
Sure. So talking about forensic engineering a little bit more, my role as an engineer is to help other entities, other companies determine what the actual failure of a component was. So a lot of our work is done for insurance companies or other law offices to help them develop a professional opinion on what happened with a failure. Typically they are, claims or lawsuits. So there's some high stakes involved. So you have to make sure, you get it right. And you're based in evidence, which is a big part of my job. I do get a lot of experience in the field. I'm a very hands-on engineer. And I think that's why I like forensics, is I get to go out and solve problems every day. Something has failed, I get to go out and figure out why it failed, prevent it from happening again in the future, and ensure that, a safe environment is left for the workers or the homeowner, the people involved. So it's definitely fun. I enjoy my job. That's something I would definitely recommend to the students is, do something that you enjoy and you wake up every day excited to do. I definitely was grinding. I ground for a while. Sometimes you don't really enjoy your job all the time, but it's good to push through that. But if you can find something that really engages you and lines up with your skills and what you find engaging, I'd encourage people to seek that out. Money is a typical driver for people to do certain things. Balance and lifestyle that come with a different job is definitely something to think about. For example, as a forensic engineer, I can work from home. Don't have to commute, an hour every day. That's time out of my day that could be spending time with my family or, working in the shop. I have a shop, so I like to do fabrication and building things. So balance, sometimes can be worth more to you than maybe a bigger paycheck. Talk a little bit about continuing education. As a licensed professional engineer, you do have professional development requirements to continue your education and continue advancing your understanding of different things and knowledge. Even if you don't become a professional engineer, I'd recommend, every day you should be learning something new. Lifelong learning is something that I picked up through the 1201 TA program. Definitely becoming a lifelong learner will improve your conditions, improve your life in general, your job, your home life. So it's something that I definitely live by every day, try to learn something new. In school, that's a little easier to do because, you're in classes to learn stuff, but continue that past the point in your life where you're in formal education and pick up a book. It doesn't have to be engineering related. I'm right now working through a personal finance book, just sharpen my different tools. So another recommendation for students, become a lifelong learner. If that's something you can take from school. Okay, let's see here. We have a comment here. What is the most common thing you check for failure? So in my current position, U.S. Forensic, I do a lot of appliance failures. Homeowners have water moisture issue. One of the classes I took in school that I really stuck well with was refrigeration. It was a specialty course offered to the mechanical engineering department. So I do a lot of HVAC inspections, especially in the summertime. They're starting to kind of cut back now, but a lot of HVAC inspections, heat pumps, dishwashers, washing machines, things where moisture can escape. So I use my engineering expertise to understand, hey, how is moisture getting here? How is it not able to escape? What's causing this problem in the residence or, the building that the appliance is in? What caused the appliance to fail? So this here is a shower. It's a digital thermostatic valve for a shower. And we had can hold it up to the camera here. You see that cracked fitting there. So part of my job was to determine what caused this fitting to crack. Was it manufacturing an installation error? Was it over tightened by the plumber? Was there a defect in the brass component that caused the crack to start? So that's a good example of kind of what I do in my current position. Okay, let's see, next question here. Hopefully, Charles, that answered your question. What is the most interesting case that you've had as a forensic engineer? Most interesting case. Let me look back through here. One thing I enjoy about forensics is, you know, there's something new every day, you know. So, you know, this week I'm looking at a shower valve. Next week I could be looking at, you know, a piece of industrial equipment or a pump similar to what I built at Circle. Let's see, most interesting job. That's a tough one. I really enjoy kind of the mix match. I do some lightning. So as a forensic engineer working with insurance companies, there's a lot of lightning claims. So, you know, I read a lot about lightning claims, you know, what causes lightning, what typical type of damage is resulting from lightning strikes. So that's something I'm kind of learning and developing in myself now. Those are pretty interesting to try to figure out, you know, could this component have been damaged from lightning? You know, I don't see any signs of it. So what can I look for? So bulged capacitors, a lot of times the ground line for a component, if it's not properly grounded, can cause electrical current from a lightning strike to travel through critical components. So to answer your question, John, I mean, I can't really pick out my most interesting case, but I would say I like the challenge of something. Everything's a little bit different. So, for example, on the HVAC jobs, residential heat pumps, every single job I go to is something different. Installation differences, different manufacturers. So it's kind of fun to kind of play the CSI inspector and go out there, and you got to come up on the crime scene and find out what happened, and base your conclusions in evidence. So hopefully that helps.
Stephen, I'm curious, when you interviewed for that job, were they hesitant because you had not done forensic engineering? Or, I mean, because it's a pretty unique niche when you think about it, and it's probably not for everybody. So help us understand kind of what they saw in you, or you felt like helped you get that job.
Sure, yeah. So the interview process, I don't think that the firm that I'm working for is really looking for people with a lot of forensic experience. They want people who have a breadth of experience in things that maybe the rest of the partners don't have. So coming from the hydraulic industry, I bring a little bit of experience from hydraulics that I can help the rest of our engineers expand their understanding. So I don't think not having direct experience in forensic engineering was a turnoff. I think they like to see people. I think what helped me get the job and impress the two partners that I interviewed with was, you know, I was willing to learn, being a lifelong learner. I mean, no one can know everything. But I think someone who's always out there seeking more knowledge and expanding their understanding, that's a priceless tool. So having that drive definitely helped me, and being experienced in different things. So they liked that I had been in 2 different industries, both energy related, but 2 pretty different roles as well. I think that definitely helped me land this new position. Hopefully that answers your question, Linda.
It does. Thank you. Looks like John's got more questions. And others, please feel free to unmute or send them in the chat box.
You feel that you need to do more field work? It really depends. I mean, every job is different. So I still keep in touch with a small group of guys. There's about 5 of us, and we all went to UNC Charlotte together. We were all mechanical engineers, and we've all gone in vast different directions. One of them is in New Mexico right now. He works for the labs. One of them also does forensic engineering, working for a different firm here in the Carolinas. One of them does air filtration work, he does more project management related, so it may not be engineering. That's another path that I've seen a lot of engineers go down, is project management pathway. So I think, and the reason I think most of us have gone in these different directions is, you know, what you bring. We all have mechanical engineering degrees, but what you bring with your personality and your own skills beyond just an engineer, that's really what will guide you towards what you want to do and what jobs or what career path really drives you. So, you know, I'm a very hands-on engineer. Like I wrench on all my own vehicles. You know, I'm a fabricator. I have welders, and right now I'm building a CNC routing table. So my personal you know, drives are very hands-on. So those type of jobs, that career path, you know, really leads to my experiences or my you know, preferences. So hopefully that answers that question. Other areas or individual work. Let's see. What % of my work is travel? I probably, so I travel, I'm licensed in 7 states throughout the Southeast. Depending on where the work is, I'll travel to Georgia, down to Florida. Right now, my workload, it's probably about 2 days on the road, 3 days in the office, writing reports and doing examinations in the office or in my office. Let's see, what are the benefits of being a PE, FE, or nothing if you're going into forensics? So we do have some people in our firm that are not licensed engineers. It definitely would restrict your abilities to do different evaluations. So a lot of vehicle accident work is not requiring of a professional engineer, but there's definitely more breadth and opportunities if you do have a professional engineer license. It gives you the ability to become or to provide an expert opinion in a courtroom. So that's really the benefit. Having just an FE, if you're going to do the like I said at the beginning, I definitely recommend, every student take the FE. It's a resume booster. It's definitely going to help you stand out amongst your peers. It's, a couple weeks of your life spent it's like the SATs. You're going to study for it, sit for the exam. Of all the people in my class, we took it in our senior year, I think in the fall of our senior year, and there was high pass rate for students in the UNC Charlotte program. So have some confidence going into it. I mean, you need to do your studying and prepare for it, but it's definitely something that is attainable for a strong student. And then continuing on, looking back, like our group of 5 friends, the 2 of us that are in forensics are the only 2 that have licenses. Not to say that the others, couldn't get them or wouldn't get them, just their career doesn't really require that license. The colleague that's working out in New Mexico at the labs, he's looking to get his license just as another credential that he can use to help his career.
So Stephen, I'm just curious real quickly, what prompted you to want to become a PE? Was there something at Arrivo or somebody, or maybe here at the school? I'm just kind of curious.
So, I've always known that I wanted to be an engineer from the time I was, 5 years old. I was taking stuff apart, Legos and connects, and then as I moved into formal studies and coming to UNC Charlotte, I definitely felt that my role as an engineer would be, I definitely felt a societal role for engineers. Somebody has to know how things actually work and ensure that they're safe. So in my current position, ensuring that someone's not going to get hurt by touching their coil or their outside condenser for their HVAC, understanding public safety, and I find that a big part of my role is not just finding out what's wrong and the legal side of things, but ensuring that they're safe. So I personally, I find the part of a professional engineer to ensure public safety, I take that to heart, and that's a part of what drives me and what's driven me to become a professional engineer.
I think there was a question about would a company give you an incentive or maybe not. I would imagine Arriva was pretty supportive of that.
Yeah. So one part of becoming a professional engineer is, and this may help you if you're looking to become a professional engineer, you need to work under a licensed professional engineer for a certain time period. I think it's 4 years in North Carolina. In most states, I believe it's 4 years. So
when possible, they can do that. Yeah. They've loosened it up a little bit just because, unfortunately, there's not a lot of mechanical PEs out there. We need more of them, to be honest with you. They are in demand.
Yeah, definitely. I would say most professional engineers, and Linda, you probably have a better pulse on this. Most professional engineers are civil. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir. We need more mechanicals and EEs. They are in such short supply.
Correct. Yeah. And to speak to that briefly, our firm, the U.S. forensic firm, is mostly civil engineers, and they do structural evaluations and roof inspections, kind of the more residential civil work. And there's another part of our group that's growing now is the mechanical department, doing more equipment evaluation. So Yeah, they're most mechanical or most professional engineers are civil, and I've noticed that. Um, Definitely, if you're a civil engineer, there is a benefit to becoming a professional engineer. I think your industries are much more aligned with the PE requirements. As a mechanical engineer, some industries really just don't need a wide breadth of mechanicals. So if you want to go into design work, right? So when I worked for CIRCOR, I was in application engineering, but we had a design engineering group that would design new products and help improve on our existing product line. And a lot of those engineers were professional engineers, they were licensed. So having a professional engineer license can help you get into different niches and roles. Definitely something to maybe ask if you're in an interview, you know, hey, if this is kind of where I see myself going, what are the requirements for that? And then building that into your own professional development plan.
You said can you talk a little bit about your graduate plans? You feel like, you know, you need a master's degree in certain areas or an MBA? It's always a toss-up with our students. They're very smart, they're very capable of going on to get a master's in engineering, but I've also noticed lately a lot of students want to get an MBA. I don't think there's any right or wrong, but hopefully you can address a little bit of that.
Yeah, I definitely talked to that. So this past spring, so right as the whole COVID thing was starting up, I did go to an open house at the UNC Charlotte Belk School of Business, try to, you know, get a pulse on what their programs were. I personally am more of an introverted person, so the MBA program wasn't really what I was leaning towards. I would say a lot of people with engineering degrees go into the MBA programs. I know a lot of people from school that are now also MBAs. I was looking to try something a little different, try to stand out a little bit. They have a specialty degree in it's machine learning, a little bit more technical, introverted style of business, actuarial work, which is similar to the forensic work that I'm doing now. We deal with actuaries. So yeah, I would say definitely, you know, that was my path for continuing education. I don't feel that a master's in engineering is something that would help develop me in the ways that I want. The way I see an advanced degree in engineering is somebody who's trying to solve a specific technical problem. So I'm sure if you talk with your professors about, if you're interested in an advanced degree in engineering, talk with your professors, see what type of things they have their graduate students working on. A lot of times it's solving a specific technical problem, and that's just something that doesn't really appeal to my interest at the time.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about your transition to your different jobs? Because there are all different industries. So for, let's say, a student who maybe finds themselves in one industry, they may not have the skills for the next industry. Can you talk a little bit about how you sell yourself or market yourself to make yourself appealing?
Sure. I don't think I have a copy of my resume around right now, but the way to sell yourself in an interview, that's an interesting question. I mean, you want to, if someone's hiring an engineer for a job, everyone that's applying to that position is going to have an engineering degree. Like the baseline requirements are going to be, do you have an engineering degree? So that's not really something that's going to help you stand out in an interview. What you want to show is, how are you going to, what are you going to bring to the team? Most of the time, an engineer is working as part of a team. So showing that you can be a team player, kind of those softer skills are really something that I think engineers can lack in some positions. So maybe elevating those skills, definitely being involved in extracurricular activities. Engineering school is not easy. I'm sure you all know that. It's a very difficult degree to get. But doing extracurricular activities like being involved in professional societies like ASME, ASCE, will help you. I mean, it'll help you on your resume, and it'll give you things to talk about in your interview. So a lot of interviews, they'll ask you, what are your 3 strengths? What are your 3 weaknesses? And it's good to have stories that you can kind of lean on to expand upon how you've helped solve the problem, or what skills you're going to bring to help balance the team that you're going to be working on. So those are the things I would recommend you think about as you prepare for an interview. Is do your homework, have stories, have things prepared that help highlight the skills that you feel will help that position, help you do the things in that position.
Awesome. Great. Well, y'all please continue to ask the questions either in the chat box directly to our speaker, Stephen, or to everybody. It doesn't make too much difference. So what do you kind of hold while people are thinking about their questions? What do you see your future in the next couple of years, kind of what you're doing, where you're going with your career?
So I really like this forensic work. I've only been doing forensic engineering now for 7 months now. Started in March. So still kind of getting my feet wet, learning the intricacies, learning a different industry. Like I said, being a lifelong learner is something that I've really embraced. You grow, you're always kind of advancing. Excuse me. And yeah, so myself in 5 years, where do I see myself? I probably will have some sort of advanced degree. Haven't really locked down what that will be. I think the pandemic has kind of slowed my progress on that front. But I will probably have some sort of business degree. I really enjoy forensic work, so I'm gonna continue to do this. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Have you been able to go to court yet, or is that something that's in your job description if you were asked to?
So that is part of my job, is appearing in court. None of the claims that I've been a part of have progressed to that level yet. Things can move slowly in this industry, which is a new thing that I'm learning. For example, in the pumps industry, we were on a day-by-day progress chart, and forensics definitely can move at a slower pace, just with the legal and the insurance work. So I don't think I've been around long enough for a project to have progressed to the courtroom, but it's definitely something that will be a part of this position. Just haven't gotten there yet.
So anticipating you're going into the courtroom, you have a responsibility. I don't know if you could talk to that a lot, because we all have had experiences with insurance companies, right? Not that they're bad, but everyone wants to win a case, right? So can you talk a little bit about that in case students are interested in maybe making that a career for themselves as being expert witnesses?
So I mean, yeah, as a professional engineer, it's a professional position. You know, you have to hold yourself to a very high standard and professional status. Um, there's no messing around. You have to know the things that you're going to be talking about, and you're being asked to be a professional expert witness on. So understanding the importance of that and being a professional witness in a courtroom, you know, you have to understand the severity and the words escaping me, the importance of that. I don't think that answered your question. Can you rephrase?
No, sure. No, you did. So I served on the licensing board for 10 years, and I had the many opportunities, unfortunately, to see a lot of engineers who sided with their clients or looked at data differently because they were trying to please their clients. And I think it's important for students to realize that you have to be non-objective, right? You as an engineer are being hired for the facts and the facts only, and the facts are of the case, they are of the case. It doesn't make a difference who's paying your bill. And I think a lot of people maybe don't realize that you work for a company or you work for a client and you're supposed to help support that client. But sometimes the facts don't support your client, do they?
Very true. Yes. So a big part of my job is, you know, going out, doing an evaluation of a failed component, and then basing my determination on evidence. And I think, speaking to what you're saying, you know, if you go to court for something, you know, believe that the other side will also have an engineer, you know, sitting on their side of the room, and the things that you bring to or support your position on, that other engineer, it should be a black and white position as to why you came to the conclusions you did. So yeah, there definitely is some high stakes, and a lot of times, you know, what we determine is, you know, our client is responsible for paying this, and a lot of times there will be some financial burden for them, but that's irrelevant to your technical position as an engineer. You're there to figure out what happened. To take the analogy back to like the CSI investigators, that's kind of the fun analogy that I can do with this job is, you know, I don't care who did it. I just want to know what happened and why it happened. A lot of times, you know, a homeowner will ask me while I'm on a job, you know, oh, is this going to be covered? Well, I don't get involved in where the line in the sand is with the insurance company and the homeowner of what's covered and what's not. I'm just there to determine what happened, what the cause was, so that they can move forward and make a decision. So.
Stephen, looks like Sean has a great question. I'm not sure, hopefully you can see that. That is very common. Ooh, that's hard too. Engineering is a demanding career. It has its benefits, but it's definitely not a 20-hour-a-week job, is it?
No way. Yeah. So yeah, balancing, you know, work, school load with professional or personal life. I use a tool, schedule blocking. So if you Google it, it's a tool, calendar management, time management. That's a skill that you should use every day. And if you can master time management in college, if you're doing well in engineering, and you're probably a pretty good time management person, but we can always get better at it, everyone. So I would say time management, one of the tools I use is blocking, schedule blocking. So you set aside time, you know, I do it on a weekly basis. I'll set aside time for specific jobs and testing, so that the time is set aside. I know this is the amount of time I have to do it. It prevents me from, you know, delaying or procrastinating on different things. So you use time management tools. You know, we live in the 21st century. You have the internet at your fingertips. That tool, you can learn anything you want to learn. So if you feel like you're struggling with your school or workload balance against your personal life, you know, YouTube, find out, you know, there's people out there that can offer you a solution. So that'd be my recommendation. The thing I use personally, time schedule blocking.
I think you brought up an important point is that there's a lot of tools, and engineering is all about being resourceful, that you're not expected to know it all, that there's a community out there, whether it's through books or online. I'm not sure if you can talk a little bit about, are you still involved in associations or your network of people, whether they're mentors, maybe you're a mentor, I'm not sure.
Yeah, sure. So definitely still involved in professional societies, ASME, ASHRAE, starting to dabble in some IAAI work. So I'm getting engaged with those people, but building a professional network, LinkedIn, using that as a tool. I think that goes back to lifelong learning again. I mean, I'm always trying to expand my understanding of something, and apply it to different things. And I think that's part of what this job offers me, is the ability to do that and get paid while doing it, which is nice.
Yes, a paycheck is always good. And so we had one of our, I think our call-ins that had a question about, do you have to be, and you may be able to talk to this, if not, I think I could possibly, but I'd like for you to. In the state of North Carolina, we really protect that word engineer. And to be a consultant, a lot of times you have to become a PE, or can you talk a little bit about kind of the do's and don'ts and what you can and cannot do if you do or don't have a PE?
I'd have to pull it up in front of me. You know, there's a very clear line in the sand for that. Yeah, I don't want to misspeak, you know, in this context here, but there's definitely a very clear line in the sand of what you can and cannot do. Linda, maybe you can speak to that.
Sure, a little bit. So if you want to be open your own company, for example, and offer engineering services, let's say you wanted to go out and do Stephen Inc., right? You'd have to be a PE, you know, or you'd have to have a PE there that you'd work under. And so for those students who want to go and become consultants or, you know, want to kind of run their own business, they have to realize there's rules associated with that, because it goes back to what you said, Stephen, is protecting the public, right? You might have the knowledge, but if you don't have those two letters after your last name, it's a lot harder to, you know, perform out there as an engineer.
Yeah. You know, and becoming a professional engineer, like Linda said, it definitely opens a lot of doors for you. You know, you've proven to the state that you are a capable engineer, and you know, it does open doors to allow you to, you know, work for yourself. That's something that you find engaging. It definitely raises you to a different caliber, I would say.
Yeah, we have definitely found those, especially during like layoffs and recessions, people who have a PE normally are not as likely to be laid off because, again, they offer another level of credentials. I'm not sure how your company does billing out to their clients, but a lot of times we have found that if you have a PE, you actually are a little more valuable to an employer, especially if they bill out to clients, right? Because they're charging you more for that expertise. It's kind of like a doctor versus a physician assistant. I guess I always say it's a good comparison.
My wife's a nurse practitioner, and you know, she works with doctors, and there's definitely some benefits for her. You know, they can bill her out at a cheaper rate. The flip side of that coin, But yeah, there's definitely some benefits to staying employed with somebody. And looking at my example, I moved to a new industry, during a pandemic. I started in late March with US Forensic, and they weren't worried about having work for me. They knew that as a professional engineer, there'd be work out there to complete. So my example, it's kind of an anecdote, but I moved during a pandemic from a different industry, so it definitely does give you flexibility.
I agree. And that's why we always encourage students that if they want opportunities down the road, that they need to look at getting additional credentials. So great. Well, we've just got a couple more minutes. My one question for you, Stephen, is if you're looking back, what would you do different, or what recommendations? You've given some, knowing what you know now.
Knowing what I know now, I know what I would do different. Hindsight's always 2020. You know, I probably would have left Ariva sooner. Career-wise, that's probably one thing looking back that I would have changed. I kind of was floating there at the end for a while. One of the reasons I left Ariva was the nuclear industry was definitely struggling at the time. I think they still pretty much are in the same boat. So when I started my career, I concentration in energy, mechanical engineering with a concentration in energy. So nuclear was kind of my plan. For my junior year on, I knew I wanted to work in the nuclear industry, whether that was going to be as an officer on a Navy ship or in the private sector. So that changed from 2013 when I graduated to the time when I left in 2018. The industry did change a lot. So I would say, have a plan, do something that you're passionate about, but if things change, be willing and be flexible enough to change as well. Yeah, I think that'd be my one thing I'd change.
No, that's great. And don't be afraid to change, right? That is really hard sometimes, is that how it's kind of scary and you kind of doubt yourself. So do you have a good support system? Do you feel like you've got good friends or family or people maybe you've met in the past, supervisors that help you with making those decisions? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, definitely. Mentorship definitely was a big part. Ariva was a very large company. And I do enjoy the small feel of US Forensic. It's different. That's something you may want to think about if you're looking at a position, is the differences between a large company and a small company. Very different environment, much more formal in a large company. There's programs and there's a lot of levels to things. Whereas in a smaller company, you can ask for things, and there's a little bit more personalization to what you want to do. You also have to do a lot more things. There's not an accounting department, and there's not all these people you can just go ask to do things. You kind of have to own it yourself a little bit more. So there's pros and cons to both. I'd recommend, if you're looking for a job coming out of school, try to feel out what might fit you better.
Is forensics, this kind of goes to one of the questions there, is forensics something entry level people can really get into, or is it something where you kind of got to go get your feet wet somewhere and then perhaps transition in?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule out entry level engineering into forensics. I know we tend to look for people that have a little bit of experience in different things. I wouldn't say that you need to go do nuclear work and then go work in for somebody else. I think it's a field where you need a little bit more more experience. I wouldn't call it entry level, just because, you know, it does require a professional engineer license, at least to do the work that I'm doing. So there, right there's, you know, 4 years under a professional engineer doing something. So I would say that forensic engineering may be a little bit more than entry level, maybe not, you know, end of your career, but I would call it mid career type position. Not to say that it can happen, but it's more than likely going to be something you're going to do with a little bit more experience.
Is there any kind of societies or maybe materials out there if a person is interested in forensic engineering that maybe they should start subscribing to, just so they start to get a feeling for kind of what it's like? Because I think it's a fascinating industry, and you're the second company that I know of in town that does it. You basically make something out of nothing sometimes, which is just amazing. You all can do that.
We find the needle in a haystack sometimes, yeah. So one of the big books that I've gotten is this book here, Forensic Engineering. But yeah, I mean, if you're interested in a field like forensic engineering, I would say, you know, you have the internet at your fingertips. There's books out there you can read, you can watch YouTube videos, and you know, if it's something you really like, you know, pursue after it. Like, my friend actually worked in this industry before me, and whenever the guys would get together and catch up, you know, I was always asking him questions. Hey, what are you working on this week? You know, what are you doing? And, you know, kind of bounce some ideas off of each other. Yeah, definitely read up on things that you find interesting. Forensic Engineering is one of the big books. It's a pretty good reference for me. Another book I was reading this summer was a soil mechanics book, a little bit more civil related. This is just something I found interesting. Very, very, very dry. Funny story. We went to the beach with some family, and you know, I'd pick up that book and I'd get about 2 pages in and I'd just pass out, be asleep. So it may not be the most interesting read, but it was something I enjoyed.
So why some people are reading John Grisham, you're reading soil mechanics.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, you truly are an engineer. I mean that in a very loving way.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you so very much, Stephen. If we all can thank him either in the chat box or perhaps maybe verbally, we truly, truly appreciate your time today. And gosh, wow, we just blew through an hour. So a wealth of information. I'm sure the students appreciate it. I know I definitely appreciate it. So I thank you all so very much. And thank you all for joining us today, taking time out. I hope you found it useful. If you have any other follow-up questions, maybe that come to you afterwards, please feel free to send them to me, and I definitely will get them to Stephen for you.
Yeah, feel free to shoot me an email with any of the questions. Thanks, Linda, for putting this together. I'm glad I could offer some insight to people. And feel free, guys, you know, informally, if you have any questions for me, shoot them over to Linda. She can get them to me, and I'll respond. Hope I can help in any way I can.
Perfect. Thank you all so very much. Have a fabulous weekend.
Bye.